everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new video. Today's video is part of the Simon Says Stamp Yay You release blog hop. So before I get into today's video, I want to tell you to go head on over to my blog if you're not there already so that you can check out the information about the blog hop. There is some gift cards up for grabs, there's a giveaway with a free gift with purchase kind of thing, and a lot of inspiration for you to check out using the new Yay You collection. So what I've made today are 2 cards using hot foiling. Hot foiling is such a fun technique because it allows you to get that beautiful foiled result, and it is so easy. So I'm going to be using products from the Yay You collection to make 2 different cards, and so there's 2 different ways we're going to foil. And we're going to be foiling on specialty papers today. So I have one of the new hot foil plates called Dancing Butterflies and a piece of vellum with some gold hot foil attached to it using just some tape. I'm going to lay this on top of my plates, which have already heated up inside of my machine. Then I'm going to transfer that entire platform from the hot foil machine over to my die cut machine and run that through so that the pressure will apply the foil to the vellum. So I'm going to remove the vellum from the hot foil machine, and we're going to peel this back so that we can reveal the beautiful foiled results. Check out how pretty this is on the vellum. Now vellum is a little thinner than cardstock, but I didn't need any shims, so depending on your machine, you may or may not need a shim. I'm going to use the coordinating dies that go with this hot foil plate. You get the dies and the hot foil plate together as one set. And I'm going to run this through my die cut machine to cut them out. And so I'll make a total of 2 sets of butterflies. So I'll do another whole round of those butterflies onto vellum. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hot foil onto some stamp packaging. Now many of you know how much I love my edge-to-edge shaker cards, and the stamp packaging is what I used to make those edge-to-edge pockets. Well, I'm using that stamp packaging and some hot foil, and I'm transferring this sketched wreath hot foil plate onto the stamp packaging. Check out how cool this is. Now I have foiled onto stamp packaging with deco foil, and I thought it would probably work just as well to go ahead and foil onto the packaging with hot foil, and it did. It did not melt the foil. It works really, really well, and it creates a stunning effect. We'll turn that into a shaker card. So let's take all of my pieces that we've hot foiled and turn them into cards. So I'm going to start first by taking this arched green cling, new from the Yay You collection, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp this onto some white cardstock. There is a middle section that I've taken out. It is a peel apart stamp. That middle section I set aside. I'm not going to use it for this particular card. I'm going to use 3 of the Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks. This one happens to be Aspen. We're going to stamp this down onto our white cardstock. So we'll get this nice frame of leaves. Now we're not going to just stop there. We're going to come back in with more ink. Now I'm going to use sage, and I'm going to not cover as much as I did with the aspen. I used aspen and covered everything. Sage, I'm only going to cover pieces of it. And I will stamp this twice to kind of get a nice transition. So I'm bringing aspen again in, and I'm going to transfer that ink over top of the sage so that it blends a little bit. Now I'm going to bring in pine, which is the darkest color of this particular trio of inks. And this time I'm only putting it in sporadic areas so that some of my leaves have darker areas and others don't. So now I get this really cool variegated background. Using some of that pine ink again, I'm going to bring in a sentiment. This is from the new Happily a Lifetime stamp set. It's a sentiment greetings set. Beautiful sentiments to use for wedding cards and congratulations. So I'm going to stamp that pine twice to get a really nice deep impression of that pine color. Then using intense black ink, I'm going to ink up just the bottom portion of the stamp and then stamp that back over top of my greeting. So I've now stamped this greeting with both pine and black ink for an ombre effect. Bringing in my vellum butterflies, I'm going to curl up the edges of their wings just to give them a little bit of lift. I'm just using a round object that I had in my drawer that would work perfectly for curling these wings. I'll also fold the wings a little bit so that further gives everything a little bit of dimension. Then using some liquid glue just in the center portion of the butterflies only, I'm going to glue them down onto my card and arrange them in this nice assortment framing up my greeting. By only adding the adhesive on the middle portion of the butterflies, that's allowing the butterflies to maintain their lift. So now we have these really cool dimensional butterflies that will fold flat when we put them down into an envelope to mail, but they'll stay popped up because there's no glue holding the rest of the wings in place. So to bring in a bit more gold, I'm going to gild the edges of my card panel here with foundry wax. This is from Tim Holtz. It's great for adding gold leafing effects. So I'm going to dip my finger into that foundry wax and rub it over the edges of the paper, and that's giving me a gold edge. Now it's really hard to tell right now because we haven't activated the foundry wax yet. So once we add heat, this will look like a beautiful gilded edge, and I really love how this finished off the card. So I applied that gilding all the way around the edges, and I did let some of it overlap and get a little bit heavier in spots. And here's where I'm adding the heat. And you can see it reacting and turning into this bright, beautiful gold. It's absolutely stunning. It looks like I leafed the edges of this card. So I'll just heat all of the edges to set that foundry wax until all of them are completed, and then I'm going to put this onto a black card base. This is an A2 size card, and as you can see, that gold really makes the panel pop off of this dark cardstock. I finished things off by just a few embellishments with some sequins. These are pink gems and sequins that I had in a mix. I don't even know where the mix came from, but any pink gems or sequins would work for this. And I'm just putting those around the butterflies and the leaves, and that really tied everything together. So I just love all the shine of the foil. It looks so pretty, and those butterflies with the vellum are translucent, so they look dimensional but super elegant too at the same time. It's almost a magical looking effect. All right, so now let's make that edge-to-edge shaker card. So remember we hot foiled onto the stamp packaging? Well, we're going to use that as the wrap for our edge-to-edge shaker. But inside the edge-to-edge shaker, we're going to do a bit of ink blending. So I have this panel here that is cut to be just slightly smaller than an A2 size card, and I'm using a variety of Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks in blues, teals, and greens, and I'm creating this really nice halo of color around the edges and then leaving the white in the middle, so that way the wreath is going to be framed up by the color, but it's going to pop because it's going to be on top of the white. So it's a nice way to frame this up without distracting from the beautiful foiling. So once I have the ink blending done, I did splatter the background with some shimmer mist. This is from Brutus Monroe. It's really pretty, and it adds just a very subtle sparkle to this card panel. So I'm bringing in my edge-to-edge shaker pocket now, and I've turned my background panel over so that we can put tape on the back side. I'm covering all 4 edges of this background panel with tape. This is Simon Says Stamp Red Line tape. I use this a lot. It is super strong and great for a variety of different cards, from interactive cards to shakers. It's a really good adhesive. It is a little bit tricky to get the release paper off because it's very staticky, but other than that, it is literally a dream to work with. So after I've covered all 4 edges of this background panel with tape, I'm going to remove the release paper. That's going to allow me to start folding the edges of this plastic around the cardstock to go ahead and adhere it down. I want to make sure that my wreath is centered up into the middle of this card perfectly before I start folding. Then I'm going to just carefully fold over 3 of the sides to form a pocket, and it's got an opening so that way we can use that as the entry point for our sequins. If you have any plastic that is hanging off the edges, just go ahead and trim those corners down. I pulled in a couple of sequins. These are from Simon Says Stamp. This is a really pretty spring-like mix. It's got a lot of blues, teals, and greens, which is exactly what I used for the background. So I'm going to fill that up with some of those, and then some of these cute little flowers that I had from Pretty Pink Posh. These are clear, so they just add a little bit of sparkle and help fill in the card. Once I have all the sequins tucked in there, we're going to fold over that last edge of plastic to seal everything in and form our complete edge-to-edge shaker pocket. So now I'm just going to get those sequins moving and distributed evenly across the card and get them all mixed up nice. I'm going to glue my butterflies using the same method that we did for the first card. So I curled the edges of their wings and then folded them a little bit so they had some lift. And then we're just going to put a small bit of adhesive on the center portion of each of the butterflies so that way they have that nice dimension. I'm using red line tape to attach my shaker pocket to my card here. And this is just a white card base from Simon Says Stamp. Once I have my card put together, we're ready to go ahead and add a sentiment. I'm going to use this Happy Birthday Greetings mix. I think it's XL Birthday Greetings. And there are coordinating dies for this set. I'm going to stamp this really nice script Happy Birthday greeting. It's nice and pretty. I'm using slate gray cardstock for this. So I'm going to use embossing ink to stamp down onto that slate gray cardstock. And I did prep the surface of the paper with a powder tool to make sure there was no static. Then I'll bring in some white embossing powder. I'll sprinkle that embossing powder on and then set that with my heat tool so I have this really nice crisp greeting. And then, like I said, there are coordinating dies, so I'm going to use those to cut this sentiment out. It's a lot easier than having a fussy cut. But if you don't have the dies, you could totally just cut this out into a rectangle. I'm going to attach the sentiment on an angle. I really like doing that. I've been doing that frequently on my card projects of late. And it just adds a nice bit of interest to the card. So here is my edge-to-edge shaker card with that stunning foil on top of the stamp packaging. And I love how it pairs up with the vellum butterflies. So here you have it with two different cards using hot foiling. It's a fun technique that is really versatile and you can do it on so many different surfaces. And of course, throughout these projects, I use new products from the Simon Says Stamp Yay You collection, which is available now. So I have links to that and all the products that I use today down in the video description or over on my blog. Don't forget to stop by my blog for more information about the blog hop. I can't wait to see you there. And I will be looking forward to seeing you again with more inspiration. Until then, have a fabulous day, and I will see you soon.